Hi guys, I'm 315 and today I am joined by Butterfly House. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes, yes, Butterfly House.
What made you choose HAUS for house?
When I was working on the logo, I liked how butterfly sat on four letters instead of five. So just kind of aesthetically. Plus, it turns out there are no other like butterfly houses with that kind of spelling. So it like helps me kind of, I guess, differentiate myself. Because my former artist name was Saze, and there were other Sazes. So like
Right.
their catalogs get mixed with mine, and it was messy. So when I had to rebrand genre wise, stylistically, the new name also helped out.
Butterfly House. I thought at first, when I first saw it, I thought it looks a bit like a German word, like house, but spelled like that. I was
Yeah.
wondering if it was from a different language, but no, it's just, it looked better and it differentiates yourself. So that's pretty cool.
But also when I was looking up like when I looked up the HAUS, I saw that that is house in German. So
Oh,
like
there we go.
yeah, so it does still work like butterfly house. It still preserves the same meaning. It just I have I guess a different spelling from a different language that helps.
Yeah. And I think it is easier for people to find you this way than maybe going by your own name, because I can imagine people can find that a bit complicated
Oh man,
to
story of
pronounce and say. I saw it and I thought, I'm going to avoid that in my reaction.
Yeah, I mean, story of my life, even since I was in like second grade, my favorite part, if we had like a substitute teacher, they'd be reading off the names and then they'd get to one. It's like, by the way, if I ruin any names, I apologize ahead of time. I'm like, that's how I know that mine is coming.
That's good. I mean, I'd say with about 75% of the artists, I say something, a track wrong, their name wrong, whatever. But um, we've kind of gone a bit of ahead of ourselves, really. Can you give us a bit of a background about yourself as an artist?
Yeah. So like I feel like my journey as an artist was kind of this gradual snowball effect of picking up new skills. So like I first started rapping when I was 6. Like that's when I got really into hip hop music. I had an older brother, so that makes it easy. And he would like, force me to listen to hip hop and I wanted to just rap. I became very much a student of the game early on. And then by like early high school is when I first recorded. And I had a rap group with my buddies, and we didn't have original production. We would just kind of hop on whatever current popular beats were there, but also just whatever beats we stumbled upon. And then I feel like the game changer was when I got to college. That's when I started, like, you grow kind of tired waiting around for people to send you beats. So at some point, I took this class, and we had to make our own beats. So then that's when I caught the bug of production of just like, oh wow, so I can make the sounds that my voice did. And then
You find it's so much more freeing when you're doing that instead of getting a beat and just thinking, I'll work with it. You've actually made something that you want.
yeah, which I think what's been interesting seeing the response to this album is I think all of my taste have come together to make this thing that for better or worse doesn't really sound like other things. So I know like for worse, because a lot of times, we like to have a reference point or, playlist culture, liking things that sound like other stuff, a certain familiarity. Um, but I find a lot of solace in just the blend I've been able to make as like my own universe. I feel like you're not going to get Butterfly House sound from other things. So
Yeah.
that gives me like a fun little spaceship to try to pilot.
Yeah. You'll never get like fully what you imagine if someone else is doing it for you. There'll always be that input, won't there, that somebody else will put in, and you'll always listen to it and go, "Oh, I wish I'd said that. I wish I'd done that then."
Yeah.
So it's great that you're doing that. You were talking about you were kind of hopping on whatever was like popular at the time. Was there anyone in particular that inspired you mostly to make music?
Yeah. And I guess in some ways it wasn't even like what I was trying to make initially wasn't even trying to sound like those folks, but like I've always said, Jay-Z taught me how to rap. Like I think he's easily the greatest rapper ever.
Hmm.
Um, but also, and I know his name is taboo now, but like Kanye, as a high schooler in like 2005, I had never seen like this type of approach to hip hop before. with the, soul samples or sampling Daft Punk and all types of combinations of sounds.
Oh,
Also,
back then it was groundbreaking, wasn't it, for Kanye at the
yeah,
time? Like for everybody, it was really unique and pushed it forward. So I could
yeah.
see why he'd be an inspiration, 100%.
And again, like that's another example of like a producer, like the strength of being at the helm of your production. Now my favorite artist is Kate Bush, and she's another one who's like this is before she got popular from the Stranger Things.
Okay, okay.
But it's just again like a producer, like being at the helm of your own sounds.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think what stops people from going that route sometimes it is kind of difficult. Like initially, like with most things, you're gonna suck at it when you first start it. So it's just a matter of like you got guitars back there. When you first try to fucking make a chord with your hand, you're just like, there's no how. And then
Yeah.
like it humbles you. And I think it just requires like a certain patience.
It does. There's so much trial and error in it, and I don't think anyone will ever feel like they're 100% there or complete when in music, in production, especially. Let's move on to talking about your latest album. So I can see from your T-shirt that you've got the album art on there, and that's
Yes.
something that really stood out to me. I think was the album art really fitted what you were going for.
Awesome.
It's called Time Bomb Season. Would you explain to people who maybe haven't watched the review yet, what it is about?
Yeah. So I guess like the elephant in the room that was a big part of behind the album. I was diagnosed with cancer in 2022. Or 2021, but then by 2022, that's when it went stage 4, and they told me you have like a certain amount of time to die, right? And
Wow.
I'd already dealt with like tough things in my life up to this point. So then during that summer, I'm just kind of oscillating between like, wow, I'm gonna die soon, so everything matters, or wow, I'm gonna die soon, so nothing matters, right? And then that made me think about this image, which I guess is what the time bomb is. Traumatic events in our lives, they're kind of like a bomb going off, but a lot of times you don't hear the ticking, right? The
Yeah.
moment it happens. So with this, it's kind of as if the traumatic event, like if I was walking around my apartment and I stumbled upon the time bomb. So before the actual explosion, I've come across this thing. Now I know, okay, I got 12 months. So do I, again, like grab the wire cutters, right? Do I try to cut the wire do I take any action? Do I try to run? Do I just accept the inevitable doom? Kind of that kind of thing. And then how that sends you down with your decision making and which paths you pick. Um, so kind of diving into like bleak territory, but I
Mm.
wanted, I told folks, I don't want the album to sound like Cancer, the album. I wanted it to kind of,
It's not the impression I got listening to it. It doesn't feel like that in any way. There does feel like at times a sense of urgency, but also positivity as well. And like you said, when you were going between those two states, do I make the most of the time I've got, or do I give up? You can kind of hear that sway between the songs.
I love that. I think there's like there's like because again, like with those pathways, right, they can kind of lead you to different like routes of decision making. Like for example, again, if you're told you're going to die, perhaps you get a little bit more hedonistic and more reckless. So like topless Tesla, that's kind of a moment of just, yeah, I kind of just want to indulge. I want to indulge in the this, the that, the other.
Yeah,
Um, but then other moments are a bit more reflective of wait, like Blue Marble Gamble is a song about deciding not to kill yourself and just celebrating the fact that, oh wait, we didn't go that route. So
yeah.
um
So are
and
things in your life better now? Have they improved from where you thought you were?
I love that question. I mean, I guess to a degree, like, I'm still kind of in the fight with the health stuff and everything like that, but it's also, um, and life kind of throws more and more punches. Like my father just passed like on Monday. So there's
Wow,
like, there's like bummer things that keep happening in the midst of really great things. So like the album is being well received. We just sold out a show in New York City.
fantastic.
Just like oscillating again. And I feel ultimately what changes my mindset. So now I'm able, I think, to just handle the storm a little bit better than I would have in
I love
previous.
I love how you sort of minimize that. You said like bummer things that are happening. Those aren't bummer things. Those are, big things that any human would struggle with and find hard. And to be still going is hats off to you really for
Thank you.
continuing through all this and pushing yourself and talking to people. That's impressive.
Thank you, dude. I was in an Uber once going to a show, and the driver, it almost felt like God was talking to me through the driver. And he said this quote that I'll never forget. He's like, sometimes the universe sacrifices one for thousands, meaning that, it's unfortunate I've had to kind of deal with a lot of the stuff I've had to deal with in this long laundry list of turmoil. But that has somehow been able to mesh with a very big growth in my ability to process things
Yeah.
and combine it with trying to make work that I enjoy, but also has a certain type of emotional resonance to kind of, you know, raise the empathy levels
Yeah.
and try to help. So I can't really do anything else. So I might as well just make a song.
Hey, songs are legacies. They are timeless. They'll stay there well
Yeah.
after we're all gone. So that's amazing. But I saw a lot of other themes from the album. Like you said with Topless Tesla, the theme I got was a bit of existential, kind of about the world. I just imagine like because everyone's moving to this like electric cars, and then topless Tesla is kind of like that greed of, "Oh, I want the new thing as well. I want to move on." So there were other kind of as a listener who doesn't know the full story, there's still other topics that you can kind of grasp between it. Really enjoyed the time ticking throughout. Wirecutters as an intro was very interesting, and I'm loving the samples as well from I'm assuming they're from like old like films, public domain kind of stuff. But it's used to a good effect. It's not overused as well, and it's just in little bits throughout, and you can feel this kind of this struggle, this war, as you go along.
Yeah, thank you. It's yeah, funny enough, I was wondering if there weren't enough of the movie clip. Like I thought like I was like maybe I'll start it at some point like in the middle and then the outro. Because it's not like a concept album, right? But it is like it is kind of woven with this theme. And I've had this idea, dude, again of I really don't want my work to be preachy or self-righteous or looking down on any type of path that a person could take, which
Mm,
is why in some ways I don't really pick a position on the topics I bring up. I'm kind of just examining them, like just kind of trying to analyze them. Um, I guess that kind of makes it at least a bit more interesting for me than if it was just black and white. Um, I think this idea of duality, like even my company is called Glass Bullet, and the bullet speaks to how, you know, a bullet can either get food for a family because you went hunting, or it can obviously do all types of horrific things.
yeah,
And it's kind of how human beings are like that. Like a lot of our choice making ability, it's just, I don't know.
we can be as destructive as a bullet, can't we? Or we can use our power to bring something better. So yeah, I get that definitely. So you've kind of been over the background and the inspiration for the album. What is your creative process like when it comes to making the album? Because listening throughout, it's a very eclectic mix of different genres, almost different styles throughout. But I never felt too lost. They
Mm,
all seemed interconnected in some way, which was great. So there was no the left turns and the right turns weren't too sharp.
yeah.
Kept it flowing nicely throughout. But it was again, there's a lot of difference throughout. So what is the creative process like? How do you begin?
Yeah, I think well it's weird like I think guitar was like the newer instrument to my arsenal. So like I started playing guitar in 2020 and I found a lot of songs have started to get birthed on the guitar just like outside playing acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Um I think like There were two songs on the record that I started working on prior to actually knowing I was gonna make this album. But the first one I made going into this whole project was One Step Forward, Two Steps Back. And that was like right after getting out of the hospital. And it literally felt kind of like, man, I thought I was gonna beat cancer. I'm not. I'm gonna die now. What? And then like sitting out and just kind of finding a sunny chord progression that I could juxtapose dark lyrics against.
Yeah, that's something I really got, the really dark lyrics and the like almost positive. It felt really like sarcastically positive. And I did pick up on that. I thought that was an interesting choice. And considering the album cover, I thought, oh, it might be a bit darker, but then it felt really indie pop. But then you go on to the next song, Topless Tesla, and that is a completely different vibe, isn't it? Again.
Yeah, I think some of the, I guess, stylistic through lines were I'm a very big lover of synths. I think my favorite like instrument, I can't play it though, is the cello. But in terms of stuff I can do, I'm obsessed with synths because there's so many different types of them. There's so many, it's almost like endless because then the type of synth you pick combined with what you might do to tweak that. So much of this work, despite the different genre places I go, I still like I think synths are a lot of what hold a lot of things together. So like even on Used to the Pills, I wanted to do like a ballad kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, but I kind of want little celestial synths and weirdo tones to kind of make it still fit
Yeah.
in the time bomb world. And um I have something synesthesia. It's like when sounds make you see color. So a lot of working on this album was kind of color play, like different synths making me see different colors. Um, Figuring out drums after that, and then writing always comes after I've like built whatever sound bed for the most part will be there.
Mm.
Um,
It's interesting what
yeah,
you said about synesthesia, which took me about 30 seconds to say correctly. So you're saying you see sounds as colors, which is really interesting because about 3 or 4 interviews ago with other artists that I've done, I also met another artist that had synesthesia as well, so sounds colors. And I thought, what are the odds of that happening twice? The synesthesia freestyle was that just one take?
it was like I guess kind of like the Jay-Z used to the way he would approach stuff because he doesn't write. It's like you kind of put the beat on, go through it, and then you might come across like gibberish moments, but you'll come across flows,
Yeah.
like
And
different
then you
rhymes,
stitch them together.
come back, fill it in. Because I wanted to have this moment on the album where I just kind of give an update on my life, kind of just
Yeah.
from 2016 up to now with bipolar disorder, working Wall Street, getting arrested, cancer, just kind of the whole shebang of bang. And because otherwise I wouldn't have known what to rap about. Like I think I've grown past this place of wanting to rap just to show off rapping skill. Like I don't want that to be a topic I rap about, how good I rap. No, I kind of want to use the technique to say something. So then
Yeah.
I made the
I
beat
wasn't
for it.
really getting that from the project myself. I wasn't going, oh, what a flow this, but I was more interested in the overall tone and the message and the collaborations with others and more than just the rap style, which was quite refreshing actually.
I love that. I
Mm.
think yeah, because now it's like you know how Batman has all the tools in his tool belt. So it's kind of deploying all of them how I want.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a bit like these more very popular, more established artists are doing what they want now and they become more and more experimental. I mean, if you go as far back as the Beatles, they were just playing the very simple sort of rock and roll songs. And then go fast forward 6 years or 7 years or so, and they're making the craziest stuff, aren't they? Just because they've got all those tools and they know they can play with them. Um, and you've probably built up a bit of an audience by now, and you probably know what you're doing a bit better, feel more comfortable. You don't feel like you have to maybe appease people as much. And I think when there's so much going on in your life anyway, you're doing art for the sake of expressing yourself more than trying to impress others.
yeah, there's like it's one of the most cliche things artists ever say, but this idea of just remaining true to yourself. And I think I really feel like one of an artist's best assets is their trust of their sense of judgment. Because like with anything you're trying to make, there's all these questions coming up in your head, like, oh, is this commercially viable? Is the like all these questions that are outside of just no, what do you think?
Mm,
Right. And I think this album was a very big um indulgence in that on a level that I've never done anything before. You know, this was me like I allowed myself to sing in a way I'd never done before. I didn't because I was trying to really keep everything legal with my discography now since the rebrand, I didn't have any samples. So I
yeah,
had to go into it all raw with that and having weird song ideas and again the genre blending all of it of just I know that not everyone's going to get this but that's okay like it's
yeah,
weird we can't expect everyone to like our stuff as artists because that's impossible.
yeah. And I felt there was nothing in it that I would say, and this is in no way a bad thing, but there was nothing in it personally that I thought was incredibly commercially viable that you'd hear in the radio, that kind of thing. But that's not a bad thing because I felt this project was more like this whole piece. And, I felt like if you're going to suggest this project to someone, you say, listen to it through because that's what you want more than just, oh, listen to this one because I think you might like it. It's the most popular one. Um, so I mean, with every project, there will always be a most popular song, won't there? But did you get the same kind of feeling that when you were making it, there's nothing really here, I think I could really say stands out? Or was there something that you're like, that's the one I could send to a radio station?
It's strange because like it feels like sometimes I feel like a dinosaur a little bit because I do care about albums like the idea of making the standalone single is always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, even though I know it's a part of the game. But just because I'm like, but I have so many sides, and I feel like I couldn't really give all that to you in one thing. Even picking the scope for this one, which was Masters and Experts, that one I was just like, well, we have a really cool idea for a video, so it kind of makes sense to bring a visual treatment for that. But
Mm,
I definitely wanted it to be consumed in its like full form because I don't
yeah.
think it's a very long album. I think it's like 37 minutes. All of the songs on it, I assumed I kind of knew this making it. I knew that Topless Tesla would probably be the one to kind of grab people the most because I think it's the most immediate. It's
Immediate hip hop, hip rap,
yeah,
pop, obvious kind of, yeah. I get that. I
it's got
do.
like a certain amount of like tempo and pace.
Yeah, it's
Um,
upbeat. Yeah, so I can definitely see that within that song. But I agree with you. I'm very much album centric. I love albums. There's something really feels really cool to me about having an album. Saying, "Hey, I've got an album. Check it out." Whereas I don't know, something feels so rushed about singles. But it's the world we're in now, isn't it? Singles and EPs.
Yeah, and it's hard to kind of, you always ask yourself like, do you go with the tide or do you kind of stick to your guns again, right? And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
um
Have you ever? This is a question I'm actually going to go on to anyway, but I think I'll ask it now. How do you feel the internet's impacted your approach to being an artist?
um I think initially it was more of like a stressful thing because this idea of basically having to split the difference between artist and content creator or artist and influencer,
Yeah,
it's like a different kind of beast. Um, but when I look back on it now, it's I think it did put oh, my food's coming. Sorry. I think it did put a little battery in my back to I guess like to figure out all the little elements of my branding, right? Like, just okay, what makes me identifiable in the internet space?
yeah.
So like getting the Butterfly House logo and all of the artwork, having all that kind of stuff. Um, and really, dude, just taking a lot less seriously. I think again, I think musicians are some of the most sensitive artists, and we take things the most seriously sometimes.
Mm.
So I'm trying to study
We're
comedian.
also the most criticized, I'd say, of the art world
This
as
is
well,
true. You're
heavily.
right. That's
Mm,
true. And I think part of that comes because music is such a widely utilized aspect of people's lives. Like you're playing it on the train, like we soundtrack this whole thing that we're down here doing.
mm.
Um, but I think just kind of that attitude of it's not the end of the world if a bunch of people don't like your post. or it's not
No.
the end of the world if like all that just to kind of keep the stress levels down, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Um, so you've spoken about shows. You said you had one that was sold out. Do you perform a lot? Do you have any upcoming shows you'd like to tell people about?
Um, I'm trying to book something for maybe like April. April, yeah. Um,
Is it around New York? You said you're around New York, aren't you?
yeah, we haven't expanded the operation yet. We're still in New York living, but I'll, just
Hey,
I
it's a
also just
big,
try to
big place. You get loads there.
yeah, and I try to pop out like every week really just to go do like a little mini set somewhere in the city because it's weird. Like you kind of pop out, you do a little set, come away with like five new fans, and you just keep doing that every week.
That's good.
Um,
That's good.
Also just ways to test out how the new records are working. Just
Yeah. It's good to gauge like real life reactions as well as online reactions, isn't it? And get a bit
oh
of
yeah.
both. Brilliant. So, Butterfly House, what is next for you? What is next
Um,
for you?
I really want to do this thing where I treat this project with a lot of consistent care. So like we're shooting a video for Topless Tesla on Saturday actually, and just wanting to keep rolling out content around it, trying to work on a documentary around, the project itself, but the man behind the project.
Yeah,
Um,
I would love to see a documentary of that and I get more of an insight of what you've been through, really.
yeah, I think what's been weird also with this project too is like having the music itself that I like, but also um there's like a pretty compelling story behind the construction of the project. And it's weird trying to think about are you marketing your pain? But it's like you're not marketing your pain because that's kind of what we're supposed to do as artists is use our craft to help us process the shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
So
also the more men we have talking about these things openly, talking about their feelings and their problems openly, the better it is for the world. Because men's mental health is so poor that the more people that are discussing and talking about the problems, the better, really.
yeah, dude, I think and that's where again finding comfort with what your role is as an artist is like i've I've accepted that I'm not club banger artist where I'm meant to kind of the first thing you think of is you want to go dance when you put on Butterfly House. You might boogie a little bit, but it's mainly going to be like, all right, we're going to talk about hard pills to swallow and like difficult subjects and existential yeah, that's why, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you put me on.
Yeah,
um,
no, it's good to have such a different and diverse um a set of works. I feel that's so much more important than churning out the same songs again and again. You don't want to be like an AC/DC of the world where every song sounds exactly the same. You know, it's good to be different, and people will connect with that, and they will find something in your music, definitely. Well, thank you for coming on Butterfly House. It's been really insightful and eye-opening. If you want to check out his latest album, it's linked down below. It will also be on podcast as well, so that is linked down below. If you don't fancy watching the interview, you can listen to it instead. So thank you.
Love that. Thank you for having me, dude.
Oh my word.